Good morning. Good morning. Good. Morning, everybody. Come on in and take a seat, and we'll call our meeting to order. Chairman Martin, will you open us with a word of prayer, please?
If you will, join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this day you've given us today, and thank you for the peace that we feel when we wake up in the morning. Thank you for just allowing us to breathe, and be thankful for that. When so many people around the world are having trials and tribulations, I feel like our days are filled with reasons that we seek to be unhappy, when we really should just grasp onto you and be happy that we woke up in the morning and we breathe and we have the opportunity to do good things for our state, our country, and our world. Watch over us and keep our minds toward your will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, happy Friday, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Senator, come on up. Wait a minute. There we go. I'm trying to get you. There we go. Now I got it.
Turned on. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I've got two bills on the blue sheet here. First one is Senate Bill 28, kind of top third of the second page. This is Lieutenant Governor's red tape rollback bill. I actually just got off the phone with Chairman Blackman. He's going to move this bill back to Ways and Means and make a change for Department of Revenue, so I'll be back hopefully next week and I can talk more about this at that time. The second bill I have is Senate Bill 140, and right in the middle of the third sheet, this allows doctors of optometry to stock, dispense, and sell medicines that they can prescribe that affect the eye or the area around the eye.
Okay, see a question. Who's that? Whip Park, is that you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, with respect to SB 28, how does this not increase bureaucracy and put more burden on government agencies to engage in this rulemaking process on a regular basis?
Thank you, Whit, for that question. We're ultimately incentivizing the deregulation in government, so over time, there will hopefully be less rules to enforce within the agencies, and we just implement a spring cleaning process for the agencies every 4 years to look at the rules and make sure that they're best serving Georgians. So ultimately, at the end of this process, what we think will happen is there will not only be less rules for agencies to enforce, but those rules will be looked at with an eye towards ultimately deregulating the forces from government on Georgia business owners.
So you said this legislation is incentivizing that endeavor. Is there appropriations to support state employees with this process in particular, given how high the turnover rate of state employees currently are?
No, we don't have any appropriation in this bill, Mr.
Okay.
Whit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairman Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, when we talk about deregulating, I just can't help but think about the Department of Banking and Finance, which is, that's all their entire role is to regulate our financial industries. How do we deregulate the important job they're doing in that regard? I worry
Sure.
about.
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. Did you get to the end of it?
Yes, sir. That's really my concern. I apologize. I've really not followed this legislation intently, but
Sure.
there's some things we don't need to deregulate.
There's five core elements of the bill. The first of which creates something called a small business impact analysis, which I would say is a cousin to a fiscal note. It allows members of the General Assembly to ask the state auditor to review bills as it relates to small businesses. Small businesses in the bill get changed from companies with 100 employees or less to 300 employees or less. And there's incentives, there's really a declaration in current Georgia law for agencies to try to make those regulations as least burdensome as possible for small businesses. The second thing that we do is we have an economic impact analysis that looks at the larger rules that agencies may place, and we define those in the bill after an adjustment in committee at bills that would cost $3 million or more to adhere to, and we require those to be ratified by the General Assembly. But specifically, I think to your question, we have a 4-year review period where the governor will ask agencies every 4 years to look through the rules that they have promulgated and ask a couple of key questions. One, are they serving the purpose they were originally intended to serve? 2, are they still necessary to serve that purpose? And 3, are they the least burdensome way possible that the intended purpose can be complied with? So ultimately, we're asking these agencies to do something that all of us do in our businesses on a pretty regular basis, and that is to look at what we do and make sure that it's as efficient as possible.
Okay. Representative Evans, did you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author, is there a fiscal note with this bill?
There's not a fiscal note, Representative. This is not a bill that that has a financial impact. It's not levying a new tax. It's not changing a new tax. It has agency directives in it that we think can be accomplished with existing agency staffing. But to really do an analysis on this, not only would you need to look at potential costs, you would need to look at potential savings. And I've proffered in committee that I don't know how you would look at the downstream savings both within the agencies and within the Georgia economy for ensuring that we have the least regulations possible in the state.
Have you looked at whether the agencies have enough staffing to do the analysis? This is a pretty robust amount of analysis that we're asking them to do. Was there any concerns raised or any discussion of potential concerns about the ability of the agencies to handle this without additional either oversight or employees or contractors?
This is the second biennial, Representative, that we have brought this bill. So there's been numerous conversations with the Lieutenant Governor's office, numerous conversations with myself and multiple agencies, and we have not had any agency raise a red flag and say, we think this is impossible to comply with. And so we'll obviously go through the process, and if the process needs to be tweaked, we'll be open to doing that. But really all that we're asking is once every 4 years that the agencies look through the rules. Frankly, I would be hopeful that agencies will be looking through the rules more often than once every 4 years, but that once every 4 year cadence essentially just puts a spring cleaning process in place where we ask them to look at their closet of rules, if you will, keep the ones that they need and get rid of the ones that they don't need.
Thank you.
Okay, don't see any more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a few things to talk to you all about today. I've already talked to you about Senate Bill 5 on the front page regarding prior authorization, and also Senate Bill 8, which is a department bill about the juvenile court judges. But the new things I have to talk to you about are Senate Bill 20, which provides for a loan program for shelter vets to go up underneath the existing veterinary education board in the Department of Agriculture. And then the next one that I have is on the last page, page 4. That's Senate Bill 213, and that is an anti-cheating bill, as one of my committee chairman, who has the bill for me, mentioned. This is about commercial cheating services that offer for money to take your licensing exam for you, take your online course for you, do your homework, write your essay, etc. This would make that unlawful, and it would be a civil penalty through the Attorney General's office. And then there's one that's not on your sheet, but it came out of committee this morning, if you want me to talk about that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead while you're here.
Senate Bill 160, it is about reckless stunt driving, and it adds the opportunity for an intelligent speed limiting device to be placed on the vehicle after the second conviction. The committee amended it and added a section about DUI school fees, and I'm not as familiar with the amendment, so I'd be happy to come talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, Senator. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 119. It is the exact same language that Chairman Leverett had in the House with House Bill 377. Both bills passed out of both chambers unanimously. It is just streamlining the process for someone to be able to convert a manufactured home into real property.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Senator, come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I'll ask for on the bottom of your first sheet, it's SB 12. It's one of those things that you don't think about much, but a lot of people want to know what's going on in their government, and for that we have an open records request. One of the things that happened this late summer, early fall, the Supreme Court made a ruling on a contractor that was working for Georgia Tech that said, okay, he has to comply with an open records request. Now, I'll never tell you that the Supreme Court didn't do anything but follow what the law says. It was a little unclear. It's always been assumed that open records requests went to the government agency, which the public funds were being expended in, not to contractors. And so in this case, what we're doing is clarifying in the law that an open records request goes back to the, whether it be local government or state agency or whatever the case may be, where the funds are spent. We're not changing what can be requested. We're not changing any of the timetables or anything, just basically making sure that when an open records request is made, it goes to the state agency or local government that's expending public funds for that reason. And with that, it's been kind of an interesting process. When it got to the Senate, I had the First Amendment Foundation, I had the Georgia Press Association. They had some tweaks they requested. We made those tweaks. They're neutral on the bill. I've got great response and great support from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the Metro Atlanta Chamber, ACCG, and GMA. Have been very helpful and very supportive in the process. It's one of those things that I know when I originally started with the bill, Governor Kemp and I spoke, and I said, hey, when I chaired economic development a long time ago, said we became the #1 state in the nation to do business. I want to continue that. My experience in local government kind of was what brought me into bringing this bill to y'all today, and I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
Okay, Senator Kent, thank you. Don't
Thank
see
you.
any questions. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. If you will, on page 3, fifth one down is SB 121, has to do with requiring increased limits for someone who has had a DUI. Currently, there is no increase in limits if you've had a DUI. Our minimum limits in Georgia are 25, 50, 25, and that has not been increased in 14 years. What this bill does is on first offense, they have to increase their limits to 50, 150. A second offense is 100, 300, 100. Florida in 2007 increased theirs on first offense to 100, 350. I think when we look at what's going on today, we've got to ask ourselves, does 25,000 replace any car that any of us drives? And for someone who has been convicted of a DUI, I think there's a requirement that they need to increase their limits from that standpoint. So that's what that bill is about.
Thanks, Senator Harvin. Don't see any questions for
Okay.
you. Thanks, sir.
Second bill is
Okay.
on page 2. Midway is SB 46, and that is government serves the people. This bill is a service bill, and I don't know about y'all, but all of us get calls from constituents on service issues. This bill sets up GTA as the quarterback to look at all government agencies on a service issue and to create what I call a best practices issue. I'll give you for instance, I had a call day before yesterday where they called the agency 3 times before they got a live person. When they did get a live person, the call was transferred to a number that was not connected. What this would do is allow GTA to set the parameters for us. And just like you deal with Delta Airlines, they at the end of the call, you have a rating capability. The other thing we think that should be done is how long you have to wait on hold. There are other things that GTA can do. Many of your larger agencies are good at what they do. They do an excellent job, but some of the smaller agencies don't have the resources that they do. And what we see is GTA could take this and feed this down to where we need to serve the people. That's what this is really about. It's their money and their services. There is a physical note on it you'll find attached to it. I think it's establishing best practices for every agency of what they expect. In a business, you have a bottom line. You have profit. In a government, you don't have really what is the bottom line, but it is where we can deal with good service, and I think that's what this is really about, is serving the people.
Okay, we have a question for you,
Okay.
Chairman Martin.
Briefly, Senator,
Yes, sir.
and I'm on board with what you're trying to do here. My question, if I recall, GTA's mission when it was originally founded, and I don't know that's changed, was to facilitate purchases in the technology area. Their mission and their edict, if you will, wasn't to do this. Does this bill change their operating authority?
It gives them authority over the other issues that are the other agencies that are there to really monitor service, and this is a service issue. They can help them with technology. That's still within their purview, but this is to try to deal with the issue of service downline and to share resources. That's the other part.
That was my question. Originally, GTA's, it was to help purchase technology. Then they got in the business of delivering technology, even though that never changed in statute. Does this change
Does not
their
change.
mission?
Does not
and
change that.
So we're driving them further out of their original scope. That's my question.
Right,
I mean, I like what you're trying to do. I just worry about driving them further out of their original mission.
What we looked at is this, in the way it's written. They would have a person who would be the lead for this in GTA. We do not want to add any more expense, but then we want to look at what we can do from an automation standpoint. What can we track? What can we do? And also within this, they are required annually to submit a report across the board for all the agencies that we're monitoring to the legislature and to the governor. And that's the part that's missing today, is we need to see what's our service look like, whether it's Delta Airlines, Home Depot, or Chick-fil-A. They're looking for service that helps them be more profitable. And I think for government, since we have no bottom line to really gear what's going on, a service metrics to create a best practices is really what we need to do to serve the people of Georgia.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions, but y'all gonna get me in trouble with the speaker if we don't get out of here at 9:30. So if you would, let's be as concise with our questions and our answers as we can. Chairman, Leader Hughley, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, can you elaborate on why you all didn't see fit to allow the GTA the additional time that they were asking for implementation?
You're talking about in the committee meeting, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me say this to you. I've met with them multiple times, and the first thing I heard was the day that you heard it in committee. And I'll be honest with you, I have a meeting with them this afternoon, and that really bothered me, is that if you've got something with me, come to me. And we have been working with their people laying this out, and that was the first time we heard it was the day that you heard that in committee. And that's a question I'm going to have with them this afternoon, so that I said, if you've got a problem, let me know. We're providing finance for the person that would be there. We're trying to make this as least expensive as possible, but no one's looking really at the service issues. And I'm sure you, like me, have had constituents calling, being able to get licenses, being able to get to someone alive. We have 80,000 state employees. We don't even know how many are working from home or working here. We have no idea. And that's one of the things that I would like to see GTA start. I think this is a foundation start is what it is, and it needs to be improved futuristically, but it's a start.
I appreciate that answer, but the concern is if we're concerned about efficiency, I think we should, and hopefully after your conversation with them today, if it is determined that they need more time to implement this effectively, I hope you'll be coming back to us with that.
We're right now, it goes to 2026, 2027 is fine, but I think we need to get something implemented. And it's like this, my wife, and raising kids, always said this, what gets inspected gets done. And right now, I think we need a little bit of inspection to be done.
Okay. Chairman Powell has a question.
I thank the author. I think that this is something that's needed. It may be a little bit broad as you got into explaining a lot of things, but we've got some state agencies that, as a representative, we do a lot of constituent requests. And we've got a certain state agency that it's just absolutely miserable with the amount of calls that we get, because they go, the doors are locked at their offices, and they're told to call a number. They call that number, and it may or may not get through. Once they get through, the first thing is, we're going to put you on hold. Well, they sit there for a period of time, and then the phone goes dead. Is this the intent to get into the weeds on this?
Yes, sir. We want to see who's not serving the people. One of the things I had with GTA, I said, we need to do after hours, because people are at work, don't need to quit their jobs or stop out of their jobs. We could go to 7 o'clock or whatever it is, but we need to serve the people. That's our intent, and that's to smoke those things out.
I want to thank you for this.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. No other questions.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Senator Avertardi.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee. I have 4 bills. Senate Bill 17, Ricky and Alyssa's Law, it's a school security bill. We presented last couple days. Senate Bill 56, Georgia State Identification Fund. This bill basically is funding fallen public safety and law enforcement officers that passed away during COVID-19. This bill has been funded through the FY25 budget that's already passed. Senate Bill 105 is a veterinarian bill that protects Georgia veterinarians related to telehealth and other pieces related to their patient-client relationship. And Senate Bill 110 is a free-range bill.
Okay, good job. No questions. Thank you,
you.
sir. Senator, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, bottom of page 1, second up is Senate Bill 9. That's great work by Chairman Brad Thomas here in the House, helping to assist with artificial intelligence deepfakes. You've passed that before. And then on the second page, toward the middle, is Senate Bill 58. That's transporting life-saving organs to help save lives in time of need.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you,
Thank
Senator. Senator Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Page 2, 6-1 down, Senate Bill 44, presented to you yesterday, helps school systems lower taxes. Last page 4, third one down, Senate Bill 199 is a new request. This is an ethics bill brought to me by the commission, helps consolidate our campaign committee disclosure reports and our financial disclosure reports, and does a few other things just around ethics. Be glad to take any questions.
Don't see any questions. Senator
Thank you,
Watson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Senator, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got Senate Bill 130. It's on page 3, the 7th bill down. It's agency legislation for the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce. The purpose is to increase the number of healthcare providers in our state, and it does it two ways. Number one, it makes more institutions eligible for residency and fellowship programs. And number two, it makes final year residents and fellows eligible for the board's service cancelable loan program. There's no fiscal note because this does not anticipate any additional money. It's just widening the scope of the programs.
Thank you, Senator Hodges. Don't see any questions for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, colleagues.
Senator Hufstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 162 I've already talked about. That's the licensing and credentialing bill with the composite medical board that will get our physicians, PAs, and nurse practitioner protocol agreements months earlier getting out, getting people working. Senate Bill 195 on the back page, second from the top. This has been worked out with the composite medical board, the Department of Public Health, MAG, the Medical Association of Georgia, and the pharmacists. We have the third highest new infection rate of HIV in the Atlanta metro area. This will allow our pharmacists to dispense pre-exposure and post-exposure medicine. Besides the quality of life issue, the economics are that one of these generic doses that would be taken every other month is about $23. The cost of treating HIV once they get it, this prevents them from getting it, is about $60,000 annually.
Thank you, sir. Don't see any questions. Yes, sir, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my fellow legislators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. I'm Senator Rhett. Everybody calls me Doc, and I'm here this morning to wish y'all a good morning and ask you to look at page 3, Senate Bill 147. Basically, all it does is it's legislation that would allow the Georgia Department of Correction to give inmates being released documents relevant to finding work after release. And since it's getting close to 9:30, I'm going to get out of here unless there's any questions.
Senator Rhett, thank you, sir. Don't see any questions for you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, come on up there and tell us what you got on your mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 2, about 3/4 of what way down the page, SB 72 is the Hope for Georgia Patients Act. It just provides opportunity for doctors and hospitals to provide non-FDA approved treatments and medicines. SB 193 on page 4 I covered yesterday. It's just high school diplomas for ages 21 to 40. Then SB 233 is expanding the Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission, giving the governor, the speaker, and the lieutenant governor 2 extra appointees for that commission. And then SB 259 is a second chance law. When a child is suspected of child abuse, it gives the family the right to a second opinion. That's probably the most important bill I've done in years.
Thank you, Senator. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Robertson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. Bottom of page 2, SB 99. It's a bill that clearly defines the definition of law enforcement officer in Georgia to attempt to help our partners with the federal government when they are part of a multi-jurisdictional task force, or if they have to react or respond to a forcible felony in their presence. And then SB 100 is the Equal Rights for Adoptees bill. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. Don't see any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I've got two bills on your sheet today. Page 3, the third one down, SB 112, has to do, it's a good consumer protection bill, has to do with HVAC manufacturer warranties. Currently, you have to register that device or that system once you purchase it to activate that warranty. This would take that step out, so when the licensed professional installs it at your property, the warranty would take place then. No need for the activation portion of it because the manufacturer already has your information because you purchased that directly from them. So it takes that out, and it also makes the warranty transferable. So if the house is sold one time or 10 times, it follows the property. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Did
Okay,
you have
and then
another one too?
the second one's on page 3, second from the bottom, HB 180. That has to do with high demand apprenticeship programs. And simply, there's one change to it currently, and these are for high demand fields under TSAG. And currently, what you have to do is you have to get a company sponsor for that to be eligible to get in the program. Companies can only have 10 at a time, apprentices. This would allow the program school to be a sponsor as well, and they've got a list of companies that are looking for apprentices, so it expands that program. Be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first bill is on page 2. This is the First Lady's Human Trafficking Bill, which updates our code to make sure that people who are guilty of sex trafficking minors are held to the fullest extent of the law. The second bill is on
What number was that one?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. It's Senate Bill 42.
42? Okay.
Yes, sir. The second bill is Senate Bill 154. Presented this yesterday. This is the bill that deals with the closure of the U.S. Department of Education. And yesterday, President Trump did sign an executive order, so I think this would be timely. And the last is Senate Bill 141. That's on page 4. This is a department bill for the Department of Revenue that just updates our code to make our state more friendly for the taxpayer.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Don't see any questions for you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Strickland.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have on the last page, about halfway down, Senate Bill 207. This is our bill. This is our third year working on this together. This creates a standardized process for how our occupational license boards deal with criminal records. And this is our chance to help lift folks out of the criminal justice system by helping them get a job. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
sir. Senator Sessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, bring before you today Senate Bill 51, middle of the second page. This relates to the qualification-based selection of architects and engineers. Takes the same process that we use the state, university, and federal level and applies it to city and county governments.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Do any members of the committee have requests for anything? No request? Okay. Before we set a calendar, I'm going to recognize Vice Chairman Chairman Leverett for an announcement and a recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's pending the processing of the chairman's PTSD application after the hearings we've had in the Senate criminal lawsuit reform. But we do plan to have another meeting next week on Tuesday afternoon. Once we know when we're going to be going into session on Tuesday, I'll try to set the time and get a notice out. But we also have Senate Bill 69 to deal with on that subcommittee, so we will be holding hearing on Tuesday to deal with that, or to begin looking at and hopefully take action on that bill. So I just wanted to kind of get that word out to everybody. Again, we'll have the notice with the exact time later today. And also, just wanted to utilize a quick point of personal privilege. If you would help me welcome some dear friends of mine, Mo Callahan and John Champagne are in the back. If they will stand briefly, they're dear friends of ours from law school. I just want to welcome them just welcome them to the house. I'm so proud to have them with me here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you to our visitors also for attending today. Okay, let's set a calendar for today, Friday. This is day 34. Senate Bill 13.
Move.
Have move and second. Is there any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 58.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 84.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 96.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 98.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 154.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Okay, that's our calendar for today, Friday. Now, let's go ahead and set a calendar for our next legislative day, which will be Tuesday. And I suspect starting next week, we're probably going to be in longer than we have been, but we're going to go ahead and set a calendar today, and then we can add to that as we need to and move along. Okay, for Tuesday, House Resolution 273.
Move.
Have move and second. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 42.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. Senate Bill 110.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on.